Alrighty, folks, it is time that we step back and realize that stagflation is not only a possibility, it might be sneaking into probability. For the longest time, stagflation has been one of these geeky concepts us economists talk about that really never impacted the day-to-day life of an average American. But given last week's GDP report, given this week's Fed meeting, it is time we start having an honest discussion about stagflation. What might it mean to interest rates? What will that mean to housing? How do we do anything in this environment? And we're gonna have this conversation with the Matt, the mortgage guy. How you doing, buddy?
I'm doing great, Mike. Good to talk to you. And I just got done with a conversation just about, the Fed and interest rates and how that affects demand. So I'm excited to hear from you on stagflation and what you see in the future, because for sure, and you've heard me and you talk about it tons of times if you're listening to this, like mortgage interest rates have quite the effect on the real estate market. It's the number one throttle up or down, in my opinion, of demand. And demand in the real estate market is going to affect price. It's going to affect, number of transactions, going to affect a lot of stuff. So yeah, hit us with, I think first and foremost, there's going to be a lot of people, Mike, that are like, what the heck is stagflation?
Yeah. So let's start there and why it's so problematic and why it's always been a theory, but we've really only seen it once. Stagflation is a problem because it means high inflation, 3, 4, 5%, right? Above trend, above the acceptable 2% number. So that's a problem. Unfortunately, it corresponds with slower growth, right? GDP below trend, say, sub 1%. And the reason that is problematic is because the Fed has very dull instruments. It essentially has interest rates. So if you're having inflation and inflation is the problem, what do? You raise rates. Makes sense. We've seen it work. It has evidence. All right, step back. What happens if we have slow and below trend growth? We actually cut rates to stimulate the economy. Now, stagflation is the problem, is the boogeyman, because you got to pick one. You can't solve both. You can't raise rates and cut rates at the same time. That's not how the system works. So the Fed is in a very tough spot. Their only hope is to hold on and hope some magic happens and kind of just, keep rates where they are. And I really do call it hope, because we get some black swan event out of left field, they're going to whack rates. Inflation's going to be a problem. If the economy stumbles, they're going to lower rates, and they're just holding on by their fingernails. And that brings us to Wednesday, Fed Day. Fed starts meeting tomorrow, Tuesday. They have their rate decision Wednesday. Let's just get this out of the way right now. They are not raising or lowering rates on Wednesday. That is nuts. That is not happening. However, they will issue a press release that will come out with the rate decision. I suspect they are going to lean hawkish, meaning less rate cuts, meaning possibly no rate cuts in 24, and possibly, although unlikely, they may talk about raising rates. Then we get to the fireworks. What is Jerome Powell going to do in front of that microphone? Last time he was in front of the microphone, he leaned dovish, which surprised the market and rates plummeted. I suspect he is going to have to look in the mirror and realize that the last 6, 7, 8 inflation prints have been bad, meaning hot, and he is going to have to lean hawkish. The question I have, is he going to go full pterodactyl? Is he going to say things like, we are prepared to raise rates at the next meeting? Is he going to say things like no cuts in 24? Is he going to come out and just bang the market? Now, if you've been watching my channel, I've been begging for the Fed to threaten about raising rates. I think the threat is enough to throttle the market. I don't know if Jerome Powell has the balls to do that. on Wednesday. So I'm going to be paying attention specifically to the Q&A. What do you think of all that?
Yeah, and you know, like I've said before, and I believe with my whole heart, what they say is much more important than what they do. Partly because we already know what they're going to do, and so like you said too, and it's been proven, the Fed can talk about a rate hike without ever doing it, and that can have an effect on the market. So I'm interested, Mike, too. So I want to play a fun game with you. You're Jerome Powell. You realize the problem we're in. We can't go two directions at once. To a certain extent, it might be a pick your poison. Which one do you want? You want you know, an economy that's you know, fluttering and needs help, or do you want a problem with inflation, but you can't solve both, like you talked about? What do you do, Mike? And more importantly, probably what do you say? Because the words from the Fed are quite the effect as well.
Again, let me just say that's a job I would never want. But to your question is, I would choose a recession over inflation. Inflation is a regressive tax. It hurts everybody, but it just crushes the bottom 50%. It is unfair, but it happens. So I would stand up and say the less of two evils is a recession. And why? Why do I say that? Because I know with confidence that once I beat inflation, I know how to get out of a recession. It will be an uncomfortable, unfun 9, 12, 15, 18 months. But again, I have historical evidence and faith that if we go through an 18-month recession, it will unleash a decade of growth. So and this is why I keep begging the Fed to threaten to go higher. It's like, just get it over with already. Stop this. Yeah, just rip the damn thing, you know, pull a Rocky cutscene and just cut the thing and just so you can see. Right. Yeah, I mean, I don't even think it's a close call.
Yeah. So this is my follow-up question too, because I was looking at some stuff, and as somebody who's like, my main thing is structuring mortgages for those who are in the mortgage market. So like, I'm not a financial expert. I don't claim to be. I don't quite honestly want to be. I pay attention enough to know how it affects mortgage interest rates and how to structure, you know, mortgages in a way that makes sense going forward. But just looking at it, my layman's like eyes and whatnot, I think I saw stuff about Q1 defaults. And I measure the market more than anything else, and I tell people this by conversations. I talk to people. And when inflation is having a run like it's having, and everything is more expensive, and people aren't making more money, they're in trouble. And they can do different things. They can put expenses on credit cards. They can borrow money from family for so long. But I think defaults and like a big company like JP Morgan writing off bad debts from credit card payments is like doubled Q1 of 24 over 23. So like the conversations I'm having and those reports, those things align. People are having trouble. So I get my question to you is like, are we entering recession? Do you feel like if the Fed continues what they're doing, which is kind of like staying pat, not going higher, not going lower, do we naturally just go into a recession over these next 2 quarters?
If I had to guess, my bias still leans towards what myself as an economist would call a rolling recession. So a rolling recession actually may not trip the flag by the Bureau of Economic Labor and Statistics to call a recession. A recession is all of these things, you know, negative GDP, job loss, all of those things. A rolling recession trips people up because parts of the economy are doing good and parts of the economy doing bad. And when you smash them together, but it's not it's not a great recession. It's not a .com recession. It's not where everything tanks at one time. So again, the Fed's in just a horrible spot. Like the Fed put housing transactions into a depression. It won't always be in a depression. In fact, if you really want to talk housing transactions, there's a good chance that transactions are up 10% this year. Think about that. We're at 7.5% mortgage rates, and because last year was so bad, we could see transactions up 10%. That means 2024 is better than 2023. It's not continually going down. We've already found the bottom.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna. That's my follow-up question too. Is like I think it's relatively clear, but I want to hear you say it. Like we've seen the bottom of real estate transactions in your eyes, correct?
Yeah, I think the bottom had an annualized number of 3.79 for existing home sales. I do think that print will be the bottom.
Okay, yeah, because I mean, yeah, there's some that would speculate that if rates were at 8% again, like we saw Q4 of 2023, nobody's going to buy a house. The total transactions are zero, and
That's not how it works. That's not how it
yeah.
works. No,
That's not how it works. I've been
no,
watching
it's
all
not how
this,
it works.
fear porn online and all
Yeah.
these crash brothers, and they seem to think that people are just going to stop needing a roof over their head.
Well, they're just porn. They're just porn creators that have to pay their mortgage or their rent somehow, and they have chosen a very unusual way to pay their rent. So, whatever. But let's talk about what we should do as investors and home buyers. Let's just assume stagflation happens. We pull a, 78, 79. If you want to go research stagflation, go research stats from 1978, 1979. Not fun. But stagflation, while yucky and terrible, is not to be. I just don't believe in putting your head in the sand. I believe in specifically investors and home buyers need to understand that stagflation will undoubtedly mean more choices, more inventory. It will mean a lot longer days on market, a lot longer, right? We were 9, 10, 15, 18 days on market in some of the hottest markets the last couple of years. We could very easily go to 50 or 60 days on market. So what I would tell investors to do, and investors today are paying 8% for debt. Maybe it's 8.5. I don't know, whatever. But our time is to aggressively seek out motivated sellers. It is to skill up and figure out seller and creative financing. It is our job to get into communities with other folks that are doing it and ignore the doom. I hope people feel this. I have made most of my wealth when others were scared. If we have stagflation, if we have 8% mortgage rates, plenty of people will be scared. And frankly, I like that. I like less competition. I am not afraid to write 100 offers. I am not afraid to follow up every week for 10 weeks until I get my number. I'm just going to write great deals. I'm going to get cash flow today. I am willing to wait 2, 4, 5, 10 years to refinance because I'm cash flowing today. I don't bet on appreciation. It is, if we have stagflation, I will be excited because I know that doing the work works. I am in a community with 2,000 folks doing the work. And I just think people need to get ready for it. Now, if we have a recession, unemployment doubles, and the Fed starts raising rates, great. We have a skill and we know what's going on. So you kind of win both ways, but you don't get ready for stagflation when you're in it.
Right.
You get ready early. That would be my advice.
Yeah, and it's interesting from my perspective as somebody who talks to tons of people. Some are home buyers who are going to move into the house. A lot of them are investors, and in a time like this, where some people view the housing as this storm, scary, scary storm, I know more people now, Mike, than I did 5 years ago that are aggressively running towards the storm. And you have
Nice.
to ask yourself as an investor, why? Why are the people that have the most skill and know the most, why are they running towards it? Because they know that storm equals opportunity and deals to be had. What is exciting for me to think about, Mike, is I've got somebody who placed an offer this weekend on something that's at the median for the most part in Northern California, 435,000. I didn't even do the work of like looking at why, but it's been on the market for 78 days. And to me, seeing a luxury home or seeing something like, that is out of reach of a lot of people on the market for 2.5 months is not that uncommon. But at or near the median, the stuff just sells really fast.
Right.
And for it to be on the market for 78 days, What a cool opportunity as a home buyer or an investor. You have all the leverage.
Yeah.
You reach out to somebody and you offer them less than they're asking, and they get upset about it. Say, well, it's been 78 days.
Yeah.
This thing obviously ain't selling. What you want to do?
Yeah. And again, I mean, just again, so 445, whatever it was, 78 days. I mean, I don't know that market, that deal, but at a minimum, I'd be offering 399 at a minimum. And let me be clear, let's just play this out. They tell me to F off. They call me all kinds of names. I say, thank you very much. I call them 7 days later. I give them an offer, my same offer. And you know what? I'm a dick. So let's be clear. I would offer 395 the second time. Right. I would set the precedent that I'm going lower because it's still there. And again, the seller can do a couple of things. They could counter, they could tell me to F off again, or they could take the freaking thing off the market. That is an option. And I'm okay with any of those. Folks, we want a slower housing market. We want to find the motivated sellers. When everybody's afraid, it is so easy to find motivated sellers. Just do the work, man. Just do the work. Get in a community of others doing the work. I got a note. I sent out a golden ticket the other day. Golden tickets are for when people get their first deal. She was ecstatic. Lynn, he sent me this note saying, oh, Michael, thank you so much. We got, 20K off and we got 10K in credit and we got this and we got that. Folks, do the work. Stop sticking your head in the ground. If you want to get a deal, you want to get a great deal, write disrespectful offers, follow up, do the work. It's possible.
If you sit still, there's not opportunity's not going to come knock, open the door, pull you off the couch and drag you to the computer to do the daily work. You have to go seek the opportunity. And the good news is in 2024, there's online communities, there's other people doing it. There, you don't have to join, a week-long session where you pay $2,000.
You don't got to pay 10 grand. Yeah. Yeah. You don't got to pay 10 grand. Yeah. So at the end of the day, folks, I'm excited for what's coming. Again, I don't think stagflation is a certainty yet, but it has certainly gone from, unlikely to possible. And we may be sneaking up on probable. But Matt, if somebody wanted to reach out to your team and say, I get it, I'm ready to write lots of offers, I'm ready to follow up, but I need to be pre-approved, how can you help them?
GreatMortgageBroker.com. We're licensed in 48 states. I know a lot of great investor-friendly real estate agents, a lot of them in California, but even in other states, we've got great real estate agent relationships. So start with the mortgage, start with the numbers, get yourself pre-approved, have an understanding of what the numbers look like. We can do that for you in 48 of the 50 states. In New York or Massachusetts, I know where to refer you. So essentially, wherever you're doing business, if you go to greatmortgagebroker.com, connect with the team, we're going to have you connected with a great lender. And that's, quite honestly, step one in doing the work for a lot of folks. And then you go, study your market, do all the stuff that One Rental at a Time students are actively doing. To Mike's point, there's 2,000 of them. They're sharing wins, they're sharing tactics, they're sharing stuff that, is not working. And so join a group of like-minded people. If you want to get better at basketball, get around basketball players. Exactly. If you want to get better at real estate investing, probably a good idea to get around other real estate investors.
Strong. Matt, greatmortgagebroker.com. Go there, get pre-approved, figure out what's what, and then do the work. Thanks, buddy.
Thanks, Mike.